The highway was almost empty that night. A thin layer of mist hovered above the asphalt, glowing under the yellow streetlights. It was one of those quiet nights when even the crickets seemed to hold their breath. At a small roadside diner called Maggie's Stop and Dine, a young woman named Emily Carter was finishing her shift. The place was old, cracked red booths, flickering neon sign, and the smell of coffee that never left the walls. Emily wiped down the counter with slow, tired movements, humming softly to the tune playing from a rusty jukebox. The clock above the coffee maker read 11:38 p.m. She sighed, pulled off her apron, and looked out the window. The rain earlier had left the pavement shining, and the sound of a distant truck engine echoed through the empty road. Another night done, she muttered, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Her paycheck barely covered rent and her mom's medication, but she tried not to think about that now. All she wanted was to get home, take a hot shower, and sleep. She locked the diner door and started down the narrow road that led to the bus stop a few blocks away. The air was cool and still. Somewhere far off, a dog barked. Emily wrapped her thin jacket tighter around herself, her shoes clicking against the wet pavement. That's when she saw it, something lying near the roadside ahead. At first, it looked like a trash bag or maybe a pile of clothes. But as she got closer, her heart skipped. It wasn't just something. It was someone. "Hello," she called out, her voice uncertain. No response. Emily took a cautious step forward. The figure was a man, sprawled halfway onto the road, motionless. His clothes were torn, his dark suit soaked and muddy. Her pulse quickened. She rushed forward, kneeling beside him. "Hey! Sir, can you hear me?" A faint groan came from his lips. His face was pale, smeared with dirt and blood. A shallow cut trailed down his temple, but it was his expression that struck her most, calm, almost too calm. Emily fumbled for her phone. No signal. Typical. That stretch of highway always dropped calls. "Okay, it's all right," she whispered, more to herself than him. She checked his pulse, faint but steady. He was alive. She glanced around, not a single car in sight, just the quiet road stretching into darkness. Her breath clouded in the cold air as she tried to think. Leaving him here wasn't an option. With effort, she slid her arms under his shoulders and dragged him toward the diner. He was heavier than he looked, and by the time she got him inside, her arms were trembling. She laid him on one of the diner booths, grabbing a towel and some first aid supplies from under the counter. The overhead light flickered softly as she cleaned the dirt and blood from his face. He was maybe in his late 30s. Sharp jawline, short dark hair, expensive watch still gleaming despite the mud. His clothes, tailored, expensive. Definitely not someone from around here. She pressed a wet towel against a cut on his arm. "Who are you?" she murmured. The man's eyes flickered open, just slightly. His voice was hoarse, barely audible. "Don't call anyone." Emily froze. "What? You need help." "You don't," he rasped again, then his head slumped to the side as he lost consciousness. Her chest tightened. His tone wasn't desperate, it was commanding. Like a man used to being obeyed. Emily stared at him for a long moment. Something about his face, it tugged at her memory. She'd seen him somewhere before. Then it clicked. Months ago, the news had been full of stories about a crime boss who disappeared after a bloody confrontation in the city. His photo had been everywhere. Sharp suit. Cold eyes. The kind of man people whispered about, but never dared to meet. The name came back to her in a flash, Alexander Romano. Head of the Romano Syndicate. Ruthless. Dangerous. A ghost ever since the police raid that supposedly ended his empire. Emily's throat went dry. She looked at the man lying on the diner booth again, the watch, the face, the scar near his temple. It was him. It had to be. Her hands shook as she backed away, almost tripping over a chair. She pressed her hand over her mouth, trying not to scream. "What have I done?" she whispered. Her mind raced. If anyone found out he was here, she could be in serious trouble. Harboring a fugitive. A mafia boss. She'd go to jail for sure. But she couldn't just throw him out, not like this. The man was injured, helpless. And maybe, she told herself, maybe it wasn't really him. Maybe it was just someone who looked similar. Still, deep down, she already knew the truth. She turned off the main lights and peered out the window. For the first time, she noticed something, faint headlights far down the road, moving slowly, like a car searching for something, or someone. Emily's stomach knotted. She quickly pulled the blinds down, turned off the neon sign, and locked the door. Then she crouched beside the unconscious man again. "Whoever you are," she whispered, "you've just brought me into something I don't want to be part of." Outside, the car slowed near the diner before continuing down the highway. The glow of its tail lights disappeared into the dark. Emily exhaled shakily, glancing back at the man one more time. His chest rose and fell, steady now. But even in unconsciousness, his face looked like that of someone dangerous. Someone used to giving orders. Someone who, if he woke up, might not thank her for saving his life. The morning light crept through the diner windows, painting long golden streaks across the checkered floor. Emily blinked against the brightness, realizing she must have dozed off in one of the booths. Her neck ached, and her mind felt heavy with everything that happened the night before. She turned her head toward the back room. The man was still there, lying motionless on the old couch she'd dragged in from the staff area. For a terrifying second, she thought he'd stopped breathing. But then she saw his chest rise slowly. Emily exhaled. Still alive. She poured herself a cup of coffee, her hands trembling as she held the mug. Every sound, the clink of the spoon, the hum of the refrigerator, felt too loud. Her eyes kept drifting toward the door, half expecting someone to walk in asking questions. When she looked again, the man's eyes were open. He was watching her. Emily froze mid-sip. The intensity in his gaze was sharp, calculating. It wasn't the confusion of a man waking up in a strange place, it was the look of someone assessing danger. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice low but firm. Emily hesitated. "A diner. I found you on the road last night. You were hurt." His expression didn't change. "Did anyone else see me?" "No. Just me," she said carefully. He sat up slowly, wincing as pain flickered across his face. "You shouldn't have brought me here." Emily frowned. "You were unconscious and bleeding. What was I supposed to do, leave you to die?" For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, finally, his tone softened, just a little. "You shouldn't have gotten involved. People like me bring trouble." "I've figured that much," she muttered, crossing her arms. "Mind telling me who you are?" He looked at her, his dark eyes studying her face, then glanced toward the window blinds. "Doesn't matter. You just need to forget you saw me." Emily felt a flicker of irritation through her fear. "That's not going to happen. You were lying half dead on the highway. I patched you up, gave you water, let you sleep here. You owe me at least a name." The man's jaw clenched. Then, finally, "Alex." "Alex what?" He didn't answer. Just leaned back against the couch, his face hardening again. "Fine. Alex." Emily turned away, pouring more coffee into a cup and setting it on the counter. "You should eat something. You've lost a lot of blood." He didn't move. For a while, the only sound was the faint ticking of the wall clock. Finally, he said quietly, "You shouldn't have stayed." Emily's brow furrowed. What's that supposed to mean? Before he could reply, a low rumble of engines broke the silence. Two black SUVs slowed to a stop outside the diner. Emily's stomach dropped. Alex's head snapped toward the sound, his entire body tense. In one smooth motion, he stood, slower than he used to be, but still with the presence of someone dangerous. "Who are they?" Emily whispered. He didn't answer. He moved to the window and parted the blinds just an inch. The expression that crossed his face wasn't surprise, it was recognition. "They found me," he muttered under his breath. Emily's pulse began to race. "Who?" "The police." He turned toward her, his tone calm but sharp. "No? Worse?" Two men stepped out of the SUV, dressed in dark coats, scanning the area like predators. One of them carried something, a photo. "They'll kill anyone who saw me," Alex said quietly. Emily's breath caught. "You mean, me?" He met her eyes, and for a moment, the silence said everything. The two men started walking toward the diner. "Back door," Alex ordered. "What? Now?" Emily hesitated. "I can't just go." His voice was low but full of command, the kind that made your body react before your brain could argue. She grabbed her keys and ducked through the back kitchen, Alex limping after her. The air outside was cold and damp, and the narrow alley behind the diner smelled like old grease and rain. They moved fast, or as fast as Alex's injuries allowed. His breathing was labored, but his eyes stayed alert, scanning every shadow. Emily's heart pounded. "You're really not going to tell me what's going on?" "Later. If we're still alive," he said, his tone dry, almost amused despite the tension. A door slammed somewhere behind them. Voices shouted. "They're inside," Alex said. "This way." He led her toward the back fence. Emily boosted herself over first, scraping her hands on the rough wood. When Alex tried to follow, he stumbled, his strength faltering. Without thinking, she reached down and pulled him up. He landed beside her, breathing hard. They ducked behind a parked truck, listening as the men's footsteps echoed behind the diner. For a few seconds, neither spoke. Then Emily whispered, "You're not just some random guy, are you?" Alex turned to her, his dark eyes steady. "No. And now you're part of this whether you like it or not." Her pulse thudded in her ears. "What do you mean?" He looked down the road, jaw tight. "They think I'm dead. And if they find out I'm not, they'll finish the job, and anyone who helped me." Emily stared at him, realization sinking in. She'd heard the name Romano whispered before, in the news, in the city's darker corners. The kind of name people didn't say out loud. He caught her expression and said quietly, "Yes. That one." She swallowed hard. "So what now?" Alex glanced toward the horizon, where faint sunlight began to touch the tree line. "Now, we disappear. For both our sakes." Emily blinked. "Disappear? I have a job, a life, you won't for long if you stay here." His tone wasn't cruel, it was simply true. Somewhere in the distance, another engine roared to life. Alex turned to her, his expression unreadable. "You saved my life. But that means you're in danger now. I can't undo that. So either you trust me, or you die because of me." Her breath caught. She didn't know this man, not really. But something in his voice, cold, certain, final, told her he wasn't exaggerating. And for reasons she couldn't explain, she nodded. "Okay," she whispered. "Then where do we go?" Alex didn't answer immediately. His eyes scanned the road, calculating. Every motion seemed deliberate, every breath measured, as if he was mapping escape routes in his head. There's a safe house, he finally said. About 20 miles from here. But we can't use main roads. They'll be watching those. Emily hugged her arms around herself. A safe house? You sound like someone out of a movie. He gave a faint smirk. You have no idea. They moved through the narrow back streets until they reached the edge of town. The first light of dawn painted the sky in soft oranges and pinks. Birds began to stir, but for Emily, it was hard to feel calm. Every passing car made her flinch. Every noise made her wonder if someone was following them. Alex walked with a limp, one hand pressed against his side where she'd bandaged him. Yet despite his condition, his presence was commanding, quiet, controlled, dangerous in a way that didn't need to be loud. You should have left me there, he said suddenly. Emily looked at him. Yeah, well, leaving people to die isn't really my thing. He didn't respond, but there was a flicker of something, respect, maybe, in his expression. They reached a small gas station on the outskirts. Alex stopped near a dusty old car that looked like it hadn't moved in years. Get in. Emily frowned. You can't just steal a car. He shot her a dry look. Do you want to argue ethics, or do you want to live? She hesitated. Fair point. Within seconds, Alex hot-wired the car with alarming efficiency. The engine sputtered to life. As they pulled out of the lot, Emily couldn't help but glance at him. You've done this before. He gave a short laugh, humorless. Once or twice. The road stretched ahead, empty fields, early morning fog, and the faint hum of the engine. For the first time, Emily had a moment to breathe. So, she said cautiously, you really are him, aren't you? Alex didn't answer right away. His jaw tightened, and when he finally spoke, his voice was quieter. I used to be. Used to be. He exhaled slowly, eyes fixed on the road. Let's just say I made the wrong enemies. One of my own men tried to take me out. They thought I was dead. Emily turned slightly toward him. And the men at the diner. His men. The ones who finished what he started. She stared at him, disbelief mixing with fear. So this is like a mob war. He gave a half smile, one that didn't reach his eyes. You could call it that. The more she listened, the more surreal it felt. 12 hours ago, she was just a waitress closing her shift. Now she was sitting beside a man everyone thought was dead, a man who could get her killed just by association. Still, beneath the fear, there was something else. Curiosity. You don't seem like someone who'd just run, she said. Why not fight back? He turned his head slightly toward her, expression unreadable. Because sometimes fighting back just gets more people hurt. The car went quiet again. After a while, Emily spoke softly. You said there's a safe house. What's there? Supplies. Money. Maybe a contact I can trust. Maybe, she repeated. He almost smiled. You learn not to trust too easily in my line of work. They drove for another hour before reaching a narrow dirt path that led into the woods. Alex slowed the car and pulled over beside an old cabin barely visible through the trees. This is it, he said. Emily climbed out, brushing dust from her jeans. Not exactly 5-star accommodation. Trust me, Alex said, limping toward the door. It's better than it looks. Inside, the cabin was small but sturdy, a single room with wooden walls, a cot, a table, and a few boxes stacked in the corner. Everything smelled faintly of dust and old pine. Alex immediately went to one of the boxes and opened it. Inside were several passports, stacks of cash, and an old revolver wrapped in cloth. Emily blinked. Wow. You really don't do normal, do you? He didn't answer, just checked the weapon before tucking it away under the table. As he moved, Emily noticed his hand shaking slightly. His skin had gone pale again. "You need to rest," she said. "I'm fine." "You're not fine," she snapped. "You've been shot, you've lost blood, and you're limping like you're about to collapse." He gave her a look that might have intimidated anyone else, but she stood her ground. Finally, he sighed and sat on the cot. "You don't give up, do you?" "Not when someone's bleeding on my floor," she said, arms crossed. For the first time, Alex actually smiled. It was small, fleeting, but real. "You're something else, Emily." The way he said her name made her chest tighten unexpectedly. She looked away quickly, busying herself with the kettle. As the day went on, the woods outside grew quieter. Emily bandaged Alex's wounds again, this time with steadier hands. The tension between them had shifted, still cautious, but no longer hostile. At one point, she asked quietly, "Why did you become this?" He looked up at her. "You mean a criminal?" She hesitated. "I guess." He leaned back, eyes distant. "I wasn't born one. My father worked in construction. We didn't have much. The people I grew up around, they taught me early that power keeps you safe. I just took that lesson too far." There was no emotion in his tone, only truth. "And now?" she asked. Alex met her eyes. "Now I'm just trying to survive the mess I built." Emily didn't know what to say to that. So she said nothing. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows. Somewhere deep in the forest, a branch snapped, faint but sharp. Alex's head turned instantly. His hand moved to his sidearm. "What is it?" Emily whispered. He didn't answer, just gestured for her to stay quiet. A shadow moved past the window, slow, deliberate. Emily's heart raced. Alex stood silently, weapon ready, eyes fixed on the door. Then came a knock, 3 slow, heavy thuds. The knock echoed through the small cabin like a heartbeat, slow, deliberate, dangerous. Emily froze, her breath caught in her throat. Alex's body tensed, his gun steady but silent in his grip. "Stay behind me," he whispered. Her pulse hammered in her ears as she crouched near the table, eyes darting toward the door. The wood creaked slightly as another knock came, softer this time. Whoever was outside wasn't in a hurry. Alex took one slow step forward, his voice low. "Who's there?" A pause. Then a voice, male, rough, but strangely calm. "Alex, it's Mason." Alex's eyes narrowed. Emily looked at him, confused. "You know him," she mouthed. He hesitated, lowering the gun just slightly. "He used to work for me," Alex said under his breath. "Before everything went to hell." Another knock. "Alex, open up. I know you're in there." Alex moved closer to the door, but didn't open it. "How did you find me?" There was a faint chuckle from outside. "I told you, boss, I always find you. Thought you might need a hand getting out of this mess." Emily's gut twisted. There was something in that voice, too casual, too smooth. Alex's jaw tightened. He gestured for Emily to stay put, then slowly opened the door just an inch. Mason stood outside, tall, built, wearing a long dark coat. His face carried the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. "Still alive," Mason said, his tone mocking. "Guess they didn't finish the job after all." Alex's grip on the door tightened. "You sold me out." Mason shrugged. "Business, Alex. You taught me that. The new boss offered better terms. I took them." The words hung heavy in the cold air. Alex's face was unreadable, but Emily saw the flicker of pain behind his calm expression. "So what now?" Alex asked quietly. "You kill me yourself." Mason smiled faintly. "Not unless I have to." They want proof you're dead this time. I figured I'd make it quick. You were good to me once. Emily's heart pounded. She stepped closer. There's no need for this, she said before she could stop herself. Mason's eyes snapped toward her, narrowing. And who's this? The waitress they are talking about. Alex moved slightly, putting himself between them. She's not part of this. Mason tilted his head. Anyone who's seen you is part of it now. You know the rules. The next few seconds felt like forever. Mason's hand slipped inside his coat. Alex fired first. The gunshot cracked through the air, echoing through the trees. Mason stumbled back, clutching his shoulder, eyes wide with shock. Alex didn't wait. He grabbed Emily's arm and pulled her toward the back of the cabin. Go. They ran out into the woods, branches whipping against their faces. Emily's lungs burned, her legs screaming for rest, but fear kept her moving. Behind them, Mason shouted something, too distant to hear clearly, and then more gunshots rang out, splintering wood and shattering glass. They reached a slope and half slid down the muddy hill, landing hard near a stream below. Emily gasped, trying to catch her breath. Alex crouched beside her, gun still in hand, scanning the trees. Is he following? She whispered. Not yet, Alex said. He's hit, but not dead. Emily pressed a hand against her chest. What the hell just happened? Alex looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, she saw something human in his eyes. Regret. I didn't want this to touch you, he said quietly. I tried to keep you out. Well, that didn't exactly work out, she shot back. Now there's a psychopath trying to kill both of us. He gave a faint smirk despite the situation. You're handling this better than most would. I'm shaking inside, she admitted. Good. Means you're still alive. They followed the stream deeper into the woods. The sound of running water masked their footsteps. Sunlight broke through the trees in thin golden streaks, warming Emily's cold hands. After nearly an hour of silence, they found an old hunting shed, small, broken, but hidden. Alex motioned her inside. He sat down heavily against the wall, blood seeping through the fresh bandage on his side. You're bleeding again, Emily said, rushing toward him. It's nothing. It's not nothing, she insisted, grabbing the first aid kit from her bag. As she worked, her hands trembling slightly, she couldn't stop staring at him. How a man could be so calm after being shot at, after killing someone, was beyond her. You've done this before, she said softly. The fighting. The running. Alex's eyes flickered. Too many times. So why keep doing it? Because every time I stop, someone else dies. The raw honesty in his voice sent a chill through her. She looked up. You really believe that? He met her gaze. I know it. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The world outside the shed was quiet, just wind, birds, and the faint rush of the stream. Finally, Emily said, you could still walk away. Start over. You don't have to be this person anymore. Alex gave a faint laugh, low and hollow. You don't start over in my world. You just survive a little longer. But you're not in that world anymore, she said. You've already lost it. Maybe that's your chance. He looked at her, eyes searching. You really think someone like me deserves another chance? Emily hesitated. I think everyone does. Even you. Something in his expression softened, just for a heartbeat. But then his head snapped toward the trees. Someone's coming. Emily stiffened. Mason. Alex shook his head. No. More of them. He stood slowly, wincing, and peeked through a crack in the shed wall. Black SUVs, 3 this time, rolled up the dirt path. Men in dark suits stepped out, scanning the woods with radios. Emily's stomach dropped. They found us. Alex turned to her. Stay low. Don't make a sound. She grabbed his sleeve. You can't fight all of them. He gave her a look that was half smile, half warning. I don't plan to. Then he slipped outside, vanishing into the trees before she could stop him. Emily crouched in the shadows, heart hammering, listening as distant shouts filled the air, orders, footsteps, breaking branches. A single gunshot cracked in the distance. Then another. And then, silence. The forest was still, too still. Emily pressed her back against the wall, every muscle in her body tight. Her ears strained to catch any sound beyond the soft rustle of wind through the leaves. Then, faintly, footsteps. Slow. Approaching. She bit her lip, heart racing. The door creaked open, and for a terrifying moment, all she saw was a dark figure filling the frame. Emily, Alex's voice low, rough, but alive. She exhaled hard, almost laughing from relief. You okay? He stepped inside, his shirt torn, streaked with dirt and blood, but his eyes were steady. For now. She looked past him. What about the others? They won't be following us. His tone carried finality, not cruelty, just certainty. The kind of tone from a man who'd done this too many times before. Emily swallowed. Alex, this can't keep happening. You can't keep killing your way out. He leaned against the wall, exhausted. You think I wanted this? I've been running since the night they put me in charge of something I never asked for. Power doesn't make you free, Emily. It just puts a bigger target on your back. She stepped closer. Then let's end it. Let's go to the police, tell them everything. A bitter laugh escaped him. Police? Half of them work for the people who want me dead. The rest would lock you up just for helping me. Emily frowned, voice breaking slightly. Then what are we supposed to do? Alex looked at her, really looked. You're supposed to forget me. Her eyes widened. No. Don't say that. I mean it. His voice softened. You saw what happened. Anyone near me gets dragged into it. You helped me because you have a good heart, but if you stay, they'll come for you too. Tears burned at the corners of her eyes. You can't just disappear and expect me to forget. He smiled faintly, tired, but genuine. You'll be fine. You're stronger than you think. Before she could answer, they both heard it, the distant roar of another engine. Emily's stomach dropped. No, they can't be back already. Alex's head tilted slightly, listening. Not them. He pushed off the wall, moving toward the window. Someone else. A sleek black car pulled up along the dirt road. From it stepped a tall man in his late 50s, grey hair, sharp suit, cold eyes. Emily whispered, Who is that? Alex's expression hardened. The one who replaced me. The man walked calmly toward the shed, no weapons visible, only confidence. When he stopped a few feet away, he called out, Alexander Knight. The ghost himself. Thought you were smarter than to hide out here. Alex stepped out of the shed, hands slightly raised, not surrendering, just showing calm. Richard. You've aged. Richard smirked. So have you. And yet, somehow, you still attract trouble. Who's the girl? Alex didn't answer. Richard's gaze drifted to Emily behind him. Ah? Someone you care about. That's new. Emily's pulse quickened. Richard continued, his voice smooth as poison. You could have stayed gone, Alex. We gave you a way out. But no, you had to come back, had to play hero. Tell me, was it worth it? Alex's jaw tightened. She saved my life. And now she'll pay for it, Richard replied coldly. Emily's breath hitched. Before Richard could signal his men, Alex moved. In one swift motion, he grabbed his gun and fired one shot. The bullet hit Richard's car door, not him, a deliberate warning. Alex's voice was calm but lethal. You won't touch her. Richard's smirk faded. You still think you can protect anyone? You're done, Alex. You're a relic. The world doesn't need your kind anymore. Alex lowered the gun slightly. Maybe not. But it still needs something you'll never have, loyalty. For a heartbeat, neither moved. The air crackled with tension. Then, to Emily's shock, Richard began to clap slowly. Still dramatic, he said. I'll give you that. But tell me, what's your plan? You can't kill all of us. Alex stepped closer. No. But I can end this. He turned, met Emily's eyes, and something in his gaze told her everything. Alex, don't, she started, but it was too late. He pulled the pin from a small flash grenade in his pocket and hurled it toward the ground. The explosion of light and sound sent chaos through the air. Richard's men shouted, blinded. Alex grabbed Emily, pulling her behind the shed as the confusion erupted. Run, he shouted. But go. Tears streamed down her face as she stumbled into the trees, the sound of gunfire echoing behind her. She ran until her legs gave out, collapsing behind a fallen log. The air was thick with smoke and echoing chaos. And then, silence again. Emily waited, trembling, praying to hear his voice. But none came. Hours passed. The sun had dipped behind the trees, painting the forest in orange and grey. Finally, she forced herself back toward the clearing. The shed was gone, or rather, burned halfway down. Richard's car was still there, riddled with bullet holes, but empty. She searched, calling out softly, Alex. No answer. Then she saw it, on the ground near the tree line, half buried in dirt, his watch. The same expensive one that had caught her eye that first night on the roadside. She picked it up, clutching it to her chest. Her lips trembled. You promised you'd come back. Behind her, the wind whispered through the leaves, soft, almost like a reply. Weeks later, Emily returned to her normal life. The diner reopened, her uniform crisp, her smile practiced. But every time the doorbell rang, her heart leapt, just for a moment, expecting him. Sometimes at night, she'd see a black car parked far down the street, engine idling, never staying long. She'd step to the window, watching, waiting. And though she never saw his face again, part of her knew, somewhere out there, Alex Knight was still alive. He had vanished back into the shadows where he belonged. But he had left her something stronger than fear or guilt. Hope. And maybe, a secret promise that someday, when the world was quiet again, they might meet once more, not as a waitress and a mafia boss, but simply as two people who had saved each other. The camera fades out as the diner sign flickers in the night, open 24 hours. A lone car passes by, headlights reflecting off a familiar silver watch resting on the dashboard. And for just a second, the faintest smile crosses the driver's face before he disappears into the dark road ahead. Fade out.